So it has been a very, very busy week. And I wanted to try and think of something special to do today. But also I was mentally exhausted. So I've decided that why do I need to do something special? Why do I need to do something with fancy editing or special effects or special masking and things like that? I don't. So let me tell you about my week. And honestly, it started off fairly chill. I went to work, was building some computers, and partway through the week, we had to prep for this event. And you've seen it before. You've potentially seen fashion shows online or stage shows, and you see the truss flying in the air with all the lights on it and hanging, so you don't have truss poles or stands. I can't think of the words right now off the top of my head, but supports, actually on the ground and blocking the view of people, right? So there we are, setting this truss up the night before the event, and we get everything sorted and rigged up, and then we have to program everything. We have to make sure that all of the programming for the lights, all of the different fixtures are perfect and set. And it took a long time, don't get me wrong, we were there until about midnight, but it felt good. And it felt even better when we went there the next day and the cloth, and I think it's called cloth and batten. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that. I personally am fairly new to events and installations and stuff like that, and the things that are used. But all the people that I'm working with are the experts. I was there kind of helping out and kind of learning my way around, which again was another interesting thing. And yeah, it was just so fun and so interesting and eye-opening as well. There was some... Let me just tell you, models at fashion shows don't give a damn. Now, bear in mind, it wasn't like there was plenty of time before the event opened. There were plenty of people around, and there were certain times we'd be standing there talking, just, checking everything on the rig and moving the lights around, and all of a sudden, you'd come out from behind the cloth, and there'd just be a mostly naked person there, or you'd walk up the steps from down on the bottom level, and then all of a sudden you just have people with nipple covers on and nothing else, just there, just yep, whatever. And it's the confidence of these people was actually awe-inspiring, I have to be honest. And not to mention the fact that there was some people there who had never done catwalks before, and I'll be honest, I have no idea who those people were. I'd been told this by the makeup artists and the nail technicians that were there on site, who we knew, and I could not figure out in my mind who those people were. There was no way that for me to be oh yeah, that person's never done this before. I was just wow, this is incredible. It's just wow. But I will say that the biggest thing for me was knowing that actually I'd played an integral part in helping get this event set up. And there's something special about that. There's something fantastic about that. Just being able to know that you're part of the reason that people are experiencing certain emotions. And I don't think anything can beat that. There isn't really anything that can beat that at all. And to be honest, I hope we have more events like that, especially if they're right next door to where the unit is, because it was so good to be able to go from the event and then come back to the unit and all of us just go, wow, Like, we did that thing. And the other thing that I'm really looking forward to as well is getting a chance this week to properly go through all of the footage that I got on the GoPro using the gimbal throughout the event. And one of the things the guys that I was working with said to me, they turned around and they were like, "Oh no, we've got rid of your usual nickname, and we're calling you Creeper now, because obviously when you use a gimbal, it sorts out this sort of movement and this sort of movement, but the only movement that it doesn't sort out is this sort of movement, like the up and down translational movement." And because of that, you have to do this really weird like gimbal walk to take out that movement. And yeah, you don't know. You do look a bit funny doing it, but at the same time, it's one of the things that you have to do to get the shots that you want to do. But yeah, like I say, that's pretty much been my week. And I think that's pretty much everything. The only other thing that has been an interesting situation for me is the fact that I had a friend of mine who was saying about me kind of working for him more and being like the admin person there as well, and sort of like the secretary. And I said to him, I was like, we need to have this conversation when you've not had a few drinks after this event, and we can actually have a proper conversation. Because for me, this sounds like a strange thing to say, but I would rather be self-employed and that person come to me and say, "Oh, are you available next week on these days to come in, say, from like 10 o'clock on like Wednesday through Friday," and me say yes to that, as opposed to it being like something that's like doesn't need to be asked. I would rather be asked and have the opportunity to say no, even if I know I'm going to say yes because I need the money and need to pay the electricity bill, than it to be something that has to happen and I have to get up for. Because that for me just, it doesn't sit right mentally for me. Even though the outcome is exactly the same, just mentally for me, I feel like having that choice is a far better thing for me. And I think what I'll say to this person is, actually, I would rather just be self-employed, even if it's like a consistent thing. And don't get me wrong, I'll end up doing more work. But the other thing when I was talking to my brother about this is, I said to him, I was like, I think what I'm probably going to do is just say, look, I'm happy to do this, but can we make it so I'm doing 3 days a week? Now, I could earn more money doing more, and there will be opportunities to earn more, but I think if I go in it 3 days a week, it will give me enough time for me to be able to still be effective for the company, but also have enough time mentally to relax and take time off. And yeah, it might be that I increase more and do 4 days a week, but I think to start off, if I do 3 days a week, it helps them out because it's cheaper, but also it helps me out as well mentally, and I can actually slowly get used to everything. But yeah, anyway, that's the end of this video. If you watched this, thank you. You probably didn't watch this, but if you did, thank you. Yeah, peace out. And next week, I will look to do a much better, more interesting, well, a visually interesting video. But yeah, thank you for listening to my life. Like I said, this 52-week project was all about storytelling, so I'm telling you the story of my week.